Hi, my name is Ben from Wooby Design, and today I'm going to show you how I mounted this FINITY CNC machine against the wall. And for those of you who are skeptical about this setup, I'll just leave this right over here. This video is brought to you by FINITY. I'll talk more about these Dex Fit comfortable and cut resistant gloves later in the video. Full disclosure, FINITY did send me this machine to review and test out, and I'm going to be pushing it to the limit and mounting it against the wall. So let's start unboxing it. FINITY sent me spare accessories as well as spare parts so I could upgrade it to bigger rails, and that's why there's so many boxes. And I think this is the biggest advantage of having a FINITY CNC machine is that instead of buying a brand new machine, you could just upgrade your rails. This is the X rail for the woodworker, which gives you 32-inch cutting capacity. The one right behind it is the Journeyman, which gives you 48-inch cutting capacity. So that's the major difference, and you could always swap it out whenever you want to. Now I started off by assembling the quick change wasteboard frame. Now this is an additional and it's not a standard, but this is going to allow me to change the wasteboard quickly as well as be able to mount it against the wall. Make sure the T-tracks are facing up and secure them with the screws provided. Next, I started aligning the Y rails, and there's a little notch on the frame that aligns the Y rails perfectly, and all I have to do is just secure them with the screws that were provided, and for now I'm just finger tightening them before I could align the X rails. Now to mount the X rails, I'm moving the Y rails all the way to the front, and that should align the X rails perfectly. And I just have to secure them with the screws provided, and I could tighten X and the Y rails, and that should be good to go for the X and the Y. Now for the Z, which moves the router up and down, you want to move the housing to the middle of the base so that you could locate the mounting holes. There's 3 different mounting holes, but I'm using the one in the middle and securing that onto the X rails. Now the router housing came in bent due to shipping, and so I had to spread this router housing, and I had to push it down all the way and use a spreader and put the router in, and I was able to secure the router onto the housing. Now once I had the router secured to the housing, I could move on to cable management. And FINITY actually thought of this, and there's a little plate that you could secure your router cable onto, and you could just screw it back on and everything should be secure. Next, I could move on to connecting everything onto the controller. And this process couldn't be easier. You're literally just connecting 4 different wires into the controller, and there's a really good tutorial on their YouTube channel, and I was pretty much up and running and the machine was working great, and I could move on to mounting the CNC machine onto the wall. Real quick, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is FINITY. As a woodworker, my hands are extremely valuable, and I try to get into the habit of wearing gloves when it's necessary. Whether you're handling sharp razor blades or handling things with sharp metal edges, your hands are vulnerable to accidents and risks. These Dex Fit Level 5 cut-resistant gloves protect your hands from accidental cuts, and they're extremely lightweight. These gloves provide a comfortable, snug fit to all fingers that just feels like a second skin. On the inside, there's a breathable water-based rubber coating that prevents slippage and provides a strong grip, and these gloves pass the US food contact coating test, so it's safe to use when handling food. They are touchscreen compatible, so you can quickly use your phone without taking the gloves off. Now the yarn is made out of this material that is rated for level 5 CE cut resistance, which is one of the highest, but they're not cut proof, so always be careful when handling sharp blades. It's also machine washable, so you could reuse them more than just once. The Dex Fit cut resistant gloves would be perfect for anybody who's working with their hands. It's lightweight, provides a strong grip, comfortable to wear for a long time, cut resistant, touchscreen compatible, and it's even food safe. So make sure to start protecting your hands today and try out FINITY's Dex Fit cut resistant gloves. And I'll have the link down in the description below. Thank you FINITY for sponsoring this video. Now, before I start mounting the CNC machine against the wall, I just wanted to give you a quick disclaimer and actually show you the proper way to mount the CNC machine against the wall. And these machines are designed so that the X rails are standing vertically and the Y rails are horizontal, which allows you to do something called tiling, but I don't think I'm interested in that, so I'll be doing something a little bit differently. So this is the wall mounting kit, and it has a mounting bracket, and this is how it's originally supposed to go on, but I did some thinking and I thought maybe I could just hang the frame itself. So I decided to use the original mounting bracket and decided to modify it so that it fits over the quick change wasteboard frame. And I'm just cutting it with an angle grinder and sanding it down smooth so I don't have any sharp edges, and these brackets seems to be fitting perfectly against the frame. Now luckily, the new locations for these brackets align perfectly with the studs, and it's 48 inches, and I just have to drill a couple new holes to the bracket to make all this work. Now once I had the new holes drilled onto the mounting brackets, I started mounting it against the wall. And I'm using bolts to secure this against the wall, and that should be more than strong enough to handle the CNC machine, and I just made sure that everything was leveled and everything was good to go. Now, since this CNC machine is pretty heavy and I can't lift it by myself, I had some friends come over and help me out, and I made sure that they were well protected. So this is what we're gonna do. Okay. I'm first gonna lift this up, and then tilt it on this side, right? So we're gonna lift it up and then scoot it over here. And then from here, we're just gonna lift it up and put it.
Easy. All right. Sounds good. Okay. All right. Is it not strong enough to keep it up?
I can't go too fast.
You like going fast. That's your whole life's motto.
I thought it was going to stay up. As soon as I turned off the power,
it
all just comes down. So like if I have the counterweight, that means this is gonna be easier to go up and down, and that means I can go as fast as I want.
But we don't want it the long way? This doesn't fit?
Yeah, it's not gonna fit this way. It's technically an exact fit. But if I do that, that means this much stuff is gonna stick out right here. And that means I can't rip anything. These two motors are being stressed for sure.
Why don't you ask them for a bigger motor?
Can you replace it like that?
Yeah, you should be able to. It's just a coupling. Just do those 4 bolts, and then just do the coupler. Just be like, just send me the big shit you have.
That's not a bad idea.
I guess this is the bigger, huh?
Yeah, I was thinking, maybe.
So this is the bigger motor, and then put that on that. That shouldn't. Oh yeah, you're right. Honestly, it works. It just doesn't do its full potential of what it's supposed to do. But souvenirs, boys. Woo! Okay, so I thought I ran into an issue, but this was actually a really simple fix. I contacted FINITY and told them exactly what was happening, and they walked me through all the possible solutions. The beauty of this machine is that everything is controllable and can be modified to your needs. So this is what we did. In the settings, I changed the max velocity from 400 inches per minute down to 325 inches per minute. Next, I boosted up the currents for the Y motors, and there's a setting for moving and idle current, and I set both from 1 amp to 3 amps. And this completely solved the problem, and I had zero issues moving forward. Now, after playing around with the settings and realizing the full potential of this machine, I decided to push it to the limit and see what it can do. So I boosted up the currents for the Y motors up to 6 amps and turned off the X and the Z currents down to 0 so no power is lost. And check out what this machine can do. I'm 180 pounds on a good day, and this machine is able to lift me up when it's mounted against the wall. Now, I have to say this again, FINITY does not recommend you doing anything that I just did, but I just wanted to show you how I did it, and maybe this can inspire you to come up with your own solutions for your shop. And make sure to check out their website. They have different accessories like moving cart, where you can just simply fold and pull out so you don't have to do anything risky like I just did. Now, once I had all the settings dialed in, I decided to finish setting up this CNC machine. I mounted the controller against the wall and made sure that all the wires cleared when it was moving. Now, as for the monitor mount, I couldn't keep it on the CNC machine, so I took it off and mounted it against the wall. Now, for the cables, I just zip tied them together and managed to hide everything behind the monitor. And I just checked to make sure all the cables cleared, and I can move on to the next step, which is the wasteboard. For the wasteboard, I'm using 3/4 inch sheet of MDF, and I'm just rough cutting them and cutting them to final size on the table side. Now, I should have done this before mounting it against the wall, but I'm able to tilt it away from the wall and securing the wasteboard from the bottom. Now, it's a tight fit, but I'm still able to pre-drill and screw in these screws to secure the wasteboard. Now, once I had all the wasteboard secured, I could tilt the CNC machine back against the wall and start checking to make sure the router bit will clear each corners of the wasteboard. Now, just as an example, I wanted to show you how this wasteboard is getting flattened. And I didn't attach any dust collection just to see how bad it will get, and this was a terrible idea. This stuff is terrible for your lungs, so make sure to wear a proper mask when you're cutting MDF. Okay, so as you can see, CNC machines make a lot of mess, so you need some sort of dust collection system. So I'm adding this hose adapter from Rockler so that I could continue using my quick change dust collection system from Rockler. And on the router side, you could just attach the hose to the second dust boot. I also replaced the router cable with the coil cord I got from Amazon, and this setup makes it look so much cleaner. And now I'm ready to properly use this machine. Let me show you step by step on how CNC machines work so that you can get a rough idea. When you turn on the machine, it's going to ask you to home the machine. And when you press OK, the router will go all the way up and find the limitation for Z, and then move all the way to the left to find the limitation for X, and move all the way to the front for the limitation of Y axis. And this process allows the machine to find the position of the router and sets limitations on how far you can move on each axis. And you can freely move this machine once it's homed. And I can change the router bit, and I'm using 1/4 inch compression bit, and this one's from FINITY and it's called Jenny. Now I can start securing the material onto the wasteboard. I'm using these Rockler T-Track stops to hold the material in place, and I can clamp it down with these low profile oops clamps. Next, I need to set the 0. This process allows the machine to find the location of the material. This all depends on where you set the 0 when you create your file, but most of the time, I set it at the lower left corner of my materials. I like to use a piece of paper to get the router bit as close to the material as possible. Now, back on the machine, you can individually set the 0 for X, Y, and the Z, or you can just hit the top button to set the 0 for all 3. Next, I could load the file. I really like how I could just use a USB stick instead of having a whole laptop. I can locate the file in the folder using this screen and load the file. Once the machine is properly homed, zeroed, and correct files are loaded, you will get a green lit from the machine and you're ready to press play. And then I could turn on the router and turn on the dust collection and press play. Now I'm still playing with the feed rate and how fast I can use this machine, but so far this machine cuts straighter and twice as fast as my previous CNC machine. When the machine is done, I turn off the router, turn off the dust collector, and move the router out of the way. And this is the basics of how CNC machines work. Now I can mark the exact location for the new materials, and if I secure the new materials at the same exact spot and just press play, it'll repeat exactly what you just previously cut. Now you should always keep your eye on your CNC machine when it's cutting, and again, FINITY probably won't recommend you doing this, but after the first cut, I was confident enough to leave the shop to get some lunch, and it's almost like having an employee who's pretty loud and messy, but he's precise and does exactly what I tell him to do. And it's really nice having someone else cut stuff while I'm doing other stuff. Now once I'm finished, I take the material off and bring the router back down to the lower left corner so that the X rail doesn't roll down when I turn off the controller. And I can shut the program off and turn off the controller, and you're done. Okay, so this is how I mounted the FINITY CNC machine against the wall. Now, I want to thank FINITY CNC for sending me this machine, but I also want to apologize for not setting it up as it's intended. But your boy got limited space, and I'm pretty sure 90% that this is going to work out perfectly fine.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Again, check out their website so that you could properly install this machine for your needs. Now, as for assembling this machine, it should take you less than an hour, even if you have zero experiences with CNC machines. And the design of these machines are really simple, and the biggest feature is that you could upgrade your rails to a bigger size so that you don't have to buy a brand new CNC machine. Now, I tried my best to show you the basics of how CNC machines operate, and I hope I made it easier for those of you who's interested in getting into the CNC world. These machines will be only as good as the person operating it, and it's not this magical do-it-all machine and you just press a couple buttons and everything magically runs smooth. But it's also not rocket science either. You just need to learn the few basics of how these machines operate so that you could start practicing and get to know it a little bit better. Now, creating these files, that's a whole nother story. And there's so much to this machine that I didn't even talk about, like laser attachment, which you could turn your CNC machine into a laser engraver. It's really one machine with infinite possibilities, just like their tagline. So, if you're in the market for a CNC machine, check out FINITY CNC machine. I'll have the link down in the description below. And that's it for this video. Special thanks to Muveen for sponsoring this video. Keep your hands protected with these DexFit cut-resistant gloves so you can continue making for a long time. And make sure to use the link down in the description below. And make sure to check out my Instagram page. It's a lot easier for me to show what I'm doing at the moment with my phone, and I'm able to show you up close and explain in detail. So check it out, I have it saved on my highlights. And if you want to support this channel, check out my Patreon page. I have a ton of rewards like merch and scraps from my projects, so make sure to check it out. I'll have the link down in the description below. Now, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on that notification bell because the van life series is coming up next. And make sure to like this video and comment down below anything about the CNC machine or the van life series, but don't you dare mention anything about the damn handrails. Thanks again, and until next time.